Okay, so what is this thing? Let's keep that. So why you should give me 30 minutes of your attention at this time of the day? Well, the reason is because I have fallen and I've made mistakes as an entrepreneur and as an immigrant for my last 20 years in the US, but I've always gotten back up and I never gave up on all my projects and my companies. If I need to represent my life in a graph, it would be something like this. I was born in 1977, and pretty much this could be, similar, I believe, to any graph or any entrepreneur on planet Earth. You go up, you succeed, you go down, things are not going well, you go back up, you get the first revenue, then things fail, and that happened multiple times. But I don't like to represent my life with this graph. I believe I found a better one, and it would be something like this. Technically, if you take the other graph and you wrap it or you expand it across along actually a time axis, you can kind of get to a spiral. And I like this because it represents similarly to the other one. You fall, you go down, but then you learn and you go back up. And every time you fall, you go back up, supposedly you do better and you learn from the experience. And this thing keeps going until, it grows to a spiral. And I like to call the whole area of the spiral the experience, in this case, my experience. I'm not gonna bore you with my bio, but actually I'm gonna give you a few data points of what I've done and what I've learned. I was born in Venice, Italy, 45 years ago. And at 6 years old, I started coding. At the beginning, I was coding, basic computer, Casio data bank. And then at year 16, I started my first tech company. It was year 1994. As soon as I know there was such a thing called internet, I literally started to learn how to make it work, and I started coding HTML 1.0 and I started building websites. I built more than 200 websites between 94 and more or less year 2000. And I was going around companies in the Venice region, in Veneto, and when I was trying to go to a company and sell what I was offering, meaning websites, very often the response was, oh yeah, we just bought a brand new fax machine. It was definitely not expected, but I ended up, well, it was frustrating, first of all. I had clients very happy to buy this new innovation, but definitely I would say that big lesson learned out of this is that I was trying to sell something that was still not standard and people didn't even know about. So in a way, I was actually competing with fax machines, so it was my competitor, more than other web agencies. And the first lesson learned is that I had a problem of timing product market fit. In a way, I was too early to get the traction that I was expected without having a lot of friction, I would say. My company was growing. I was overall very satisfied. In 1996, I started my degree in computer science at Ca' Foscari in Venice. I wanted to, grow faster. I wanted to, literally suggest to companies the best technology, and I also had physically to get physically to these clients, in the Veneto region. So meaning that I had to drive, I had to be in the freeway, and the freeway has multiple lanes. So, I had two issues. One, even though I had a fast car, I always had a truck in front of me, and there wasn't, they weren't letting me pass, so I was frustrated. I was always behind someone lower than me that was blocking my street. And, it was hard to pass in other lanes, would have been illegal. But at the same time, I used the freeway or the highway example also in I would say, a more philosophical approach, meaning that I was trying to push, and it was hard to convince people, and they didn't let me to innovate and bring innovation to these people, to these companies. So in a way, I felt like I was on the wrong lane. This is how I felt at the beginning. But oh my God, what's happening? And very often, were even telling me, "You're too young for what you're doing," and it was frustrating at the same time, right? So in a way, I would say that my lesson learned from that was that my vision is always, so first of all, don't let that happen, and always find a place, find a solution, to find a passing lane for you as an entrepreneur, for you as a company, for you as an innovator, because you need to get to a higher speed. If you think you can go faster, find a way to go faster, and don't let the system block you. There is always a solution. Very often it's hard to see because we are stuck in our little, area, or we haven't pushed enough boundaries yet. So this is kind of, how I see this lesson learned from the freeways. Okay, so what happened? April 22, 2002, it's not a random date, it's the day when I have decided to I wasn't moving, but I took a trip to New York. I'd already been to New York about 20 times by then. Since when Venice, third airport in Italy, connected with New York with a direct flight. I was on that flight to New York easily 20 times, maybe once every 2 or 3 months, to get fresh air. I was in love with New York as a super high, fast-paced energy city. But long story short, that date after I graduated in 12 days before that, and literally I said, you know what, I need to take a break from companies that are paying late, from companies that are very slow to innovate, from freeways always stuck, so I needed to get out, and my plan was to go to New York for 3 months. As you may remember that date, we were just a few months after what happened on 9/11. Actually, my original trip was supposed to happen on September 16, 2001. And of course I didn't go, I had to wait for a few months. It wasn't easy either, but I committed to go because I needed that. I thought it was a way to push my boundaries and to accomplish part of my mission. So I ended up going there. And just as a reminder, it's not as easy as you will move today, meaning that it was way before Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, WhatsApp, and Zoom. So it was medieval times in a way. So here I got another type of lesson learned. I believe that it wouldn't have been the perfect moment to move. Just a few months after 9/11, US was still recovering, New York even worse. But so from one side, there is never a perfect moment to start the project. But I like to read it in the opposite way. Every moment is the perfect moment to start. And actually, I found out, maybe I'm a little bit masochistical, but I perform more when I have challenges in front of me that has always been driving me across the years. 2002, I eventually, after these 3 months in New York, I didn't go back to Venice, meaning I went to renew my visa, but because my plan was to stay for 3 months, I had no plan to move to the United States. I was running my company remotely in 2002. It was hard, and Skype wasn't existing, so I had to literally be on a phone call or be on ICQ, for people that remember, or MSN Messenger. I eventually found a client, someone that reached out to me, and the short version invited me for a project in Los Angeles. And because there was not remote work yet in full, they asked me to move to LA for a few months, which I did. LA at the time was not a city that I like a lot, but I decided to go for the project. And when the project was done, was more or less December, and I was planning to go back to New York. What happened is that in LA in December was 20 centigrade, apologies for the US audience, and in New York was minus 20, meaning it was freezing cold. So I decided to postpone the decision, and also this thing has a reading, and I call it the perfect weather. First of all, if you ask people in LA why they live in LA, the official first answer has always been because of the weather. The city has an amazing weather year long. But I use weather also in a metaphysical way, meaning that you should choose well where you want to start, grow, and work. And for my specific situation in that specific moment, LA was more welcoming than New York, also because it was further, than what was happening on the East Coast. So I found LA very welcoming, and this is where I started officially, I would say, my career in the US. 2005, what happened? Well, it was more or less 2 years in. I was in LA, and I started to have clients. I incorporated my first US company. And what I've learned is that I had, in those 2 years, a lot of clients were asking me the same thing, and was what today would be called something like a CMS, a content management system, to manage their users and their content. So I wrote one, and I started to sell it to individual clients, until I got to a moment I said, you know what, instead of customizing it and be the Italian artisan of the code, I should standardize it, I should productize it, and try to sell it at scale. But I decided not to do it at the client level. I decided to test something out. I decided to use it to allow users to build a community. So I launched what today would be called a social network. And in that moment, I was doing a small, I was taking a few classes at UCLA, and I proposed to my professor, if I was a digital marketing professor, if I could experiment it in class. And he allowed me to launch it and to send an email blast to the class that eventually led to an email blast to the university. And by the end of the week, I had more than 11,000 students that signed up for the website. So even in today's term, I believe it would be a great success. And I gave it a name. The name was Keeple. Keeple as the contraction of key, people. Maybe a nerdy name, I liked it, and the idea was to connect people as a key people into the community. A few months later, I was in my office in LA, in Culver City, specifically for people that know LA. Was not a very known area, and at the time it was not, LA was not tech. It was mainly what's happening today, a lot of wannabe, actors. And so I was not among a lot of people, a few of us doing tech in LA, I would say. So suddenly, in this office that was not co-working as a term started to happen a few years later. This office with a common area was invaded by a mass of journalists on TV suddenly, and said, "Hey, what's going on?" And I asked, the person on the front desk, and the answer was, "Yeah, MySpace." And so I hope that all of you, some of you remember MySpace, has been acquired by Fox Interactive for $543 million. I said, okay, that's amazing. Why the people are here? Oh yeah, because that is the office of MySpace. What do you mean that's the office of MySpace? I've been here for 2 years. I don't know that there was an office literally, 10 feet from me. Oh yeah, the guy, Tom, was, a little introvert. He didn't want the people to know that he was the founder. They didn't want even to know that the company was here. So the name of the company was Intermix. Check it out, Intermix Inc. And it was my neighbor. I ended up finding out that I had lunch at the top of MySpace for 2 years, and it was undercover. So why is this story relevant, and why this thing on screen? Well, because the fact that MySpace, that it somehow was the social network in some capacity I was competing with, without thinking I was competing, also because I worked with Mongoose, and also because I thought they had the monopoly of the web, in a way. So the fact that this acquisition and a clear, tangible sign of success happened too close to me, my reaction was, oh my God, the world can never have another social network. And I don't have the capability and the energy and the funding to compete. And in a way, I was depressed. It's kind of stupid, maybe in today's world. So, well, why David and Goliath? Well, we all know what it means, but in short, I was, David trying to go against Goliath, and I was thinking it was scarcity mindset. And hear me out. What happened? After a few months, I stopped, I froze. I was depressed in a way, and I stopped pushing my community, my product, my platform. And in a way, I killed it, kind of 6 months later. And a few months after I killed it, something called thefacebook.com came out. The first page was literally equal to mine, was almost a copycat. Of course, you may think, oh my God, they copied you. Well, it's possible, but actually, I would never say that. And the idea is that in any given moment, based on what you're building, there are at least 3,000 people that are trying to build the same thing. And so, in a way, maybe it's a coincidence, maybe it was for real. Anyhow, seeing Facebook starting was not easy. It was even worse. I was even more depressed. So, how do I read all of this? Well, lesson number one, just your idea, your amazing idea, is not your competitive advantage. I had an idea, I had a prototype, sure, I had 50,000 students by then, so I had more than a prototype, but apparently was not enough, and at any given moment there are hundreds, thousands of people that are competing with you without you to know, and sometimes, some of them, they're able to come out from the noise and get traction and scale and become more known. So execution, I know it's an overrated term, but I technically didn't execute enough, but that was also another issue. I was thinking with a scarcity mindset versus abundance. If I was thinking with an abundance mindset, things could have been different. How to accomplish this? Well, what I thought, but I learned it years later. Technically, I was in, regarding this, scarcity, the idea is that, oh my God, the market is not big enough. And of course it was wrong. Meaning that there was definitely space for more social networks than just MySpace, and you can see from Facebook, Twitter, and all the others. And the competition, technically, the fact that MySpace was acquired by Fox for that amount of money was my validation of my project, of my idea. Ecosystem versus echo chamber, what does it mean? Well, I was in LA in 2005, and it was very few of us doing tech. And in a way, I was in an echo chamber. I was talking to myself. What does it mean? I had no mentor, I had no advisors, I had no investor to talk to, I had no events to go to and pitch my idea, or get opinion, or get feedback. So in a way, I didn't have an ecosystem. That is what we have in Silicon Valley. That's why you are here from Italy, from all the world, to come to Silicon Valley. This is what I was missing. But I learned that years later. That is actually when I moved to San Francisco eventually in 2007. And that, was I said earlier, was a little bit forward. So advisor, mentors, and ecosystem is the key to their success, and is definitely what makes Silicon Valley special. There is another term that is not here that I like a lot, that is density. Sure, you can get it also in Milan, also in Rome, also in London, but here you have the highest density of these people compared to any other place on Earth. 2007, one of my clients invited me to run an in-person project in San Francisco, city that at the time I didn't like to come because the weather was always ugly compared to LA. And I always come, actually I came as a tourist, so I never got a chance to experience the city as a, in the business. So I ended up spending a few months here, and I was having a desk for a few months inside my client's office in the design district. Beautiful space. And one day, a guy comes in, knocks at the door of my client, and this guy, his name was Joe, was trying to sell his platform to clients. And this platform was about sustainable architectural design. My client was in design, so it was a perfect match. And my client said to him, talk to Paolo, he's our consultant, so he's our digital guy. I ended up meeting him, spent time together. I taught him how to make carbonara in the kitchen of the office. And we bonded. I invited him to my place. A few months later, Joe reached out to me and said, Paolo, I decided to kill my project because I wasn't having enough traction to support my mission. And I found out that the city and the world has a different need. And there is an issue with a lodging. There are not enough beds in San Francisco. So I believe I want to launch something, a platform that allows people to rent their beds and their bedrooms. And literally in that moment was writing on a napkin the name of this thing that he wrote at the time, Air Bed and Breakfast. His name is Joe Jebbia, one of the founders. And he asked me to join him as a co-founder and CTO of his company. Not the company. He was asking me to join his idea. His idea of creating something crazy. Maybe today for us is normal, because we are used to it. At the time was the craziest idea I ever heard. So my first reaction was, I think it's too crazy. There is some genius, a piece of genius, but was too crazy. So I, very humbly rejected the offer for two reasons. One, I thought it was too crazy, and two, because I was doing my project. I was doing my things. So I don't know if all of you know FOMO, the acronym, fear of missing out. So I, without knowing I was, committed to my project, I answered no, instead of having FOMO, the fear of missing out on a different project. And there are, of course, lessons learned here. One that I read is believe in your project and your life path, and try to kill FOMO. I know it's looking difficult. So if you're building something and you're committed in it, keep doing it. I know you will meet a bunch of ideas and startups that are better than you, that may invite you as a consultant, as a co-founder. Sure, that's an option, but actually that is where you show to yourself and to your investor that you are committed to your project. Be honest with yourself. It's not easy. And be honest has multiple benefits. One of the benefits is that you are making the right choice when you are in front of decisions, but also fast forward in the future is gonna make you feel better because it makes you feel that you didn't have any regrets for choices that you haven't made. And of course, it's something that I usually forget. Investors don't forget this. when an investor is meeting you and you are solving a specific product, a specific problem, maybe I think you're not solving it good enough and you think you're the best entrepreneur in the world. The point is the world is full of opportunities. And that helps also from the entrepreneurial side, from the investor side. But also nobody's a crystal ball. I did not know in 2007 that Airbnb would have been, the amazing company that it is today. I'll take a pause for a few seconds. Fast forward, 2010, I actually start what I call my official quintessential startup journey. And funny enough, this is the reason why I said no to Airbnb, because I was building something on my own. I don't want to bore you with details, but long story short, I founded a company called Pick One. We were doing audience analytics. It was freaking difficult. I was already here, I ended up going to Chile to push my boundaries even further, and was invited from the first public government accelerator in the world. They're giving, at the time, $40,000 as a grant, but only wanted you to spend 6 months in Chile. I went against all odds. My investors, I already had some investors in the company, hated me, telling me, Paolo, you're stupid, you're in San Francisco, you're the best place in the world to do that, you're going to Chile. The reason was, I saw an opportunity, and the opportunity was that here in San Francisco, sure, it's an amazing place to raise money, but it's also the most competitive on the planet. So sometimes you need some help. And in that specific moment, Chile helped me, and I helped them because they invited entrepreneurs to, have an impact in their community. So I ended up going to Chile. We raised the first million. It was the startups in the Chilean history that raised the highest amount of money for that decade. So we became so famous in Chile that first of all, the country thought I was Chilean. And number two, that triggered a process that led our name to come back to San Francisco, and we got invited from Chile, when I was still in Chile, to join 500 Startups Accelerator Program. We were in the first few batches. So what happened here? Yeah, I kind of missed a few parts, but let me see, what I lost. Yes, sorry. Too many details. I'm skipping things because we are short of time, but I don't want to miss key parts. 2013, meaning almost 4 years in, I had a big issue. The big issue is that suddenly I had a health issue. I had, at the time, a romantic issue, and I had also a work issue, meaning that a Series A investor that was supposed to wire the money, everything was already signed, did not wire. And as you know, when you keep growing super fast, you use the money right away, you're not waiting for the money, you keep doing what you need, you hire people. So that generated a humongous crash in my life. I literally crashed. It was maybe my darkest moment. It was November 2013, and the day of my birthday, 6th November. 7 months later, I went through 7 months of hell. I've been able to get out of it. First, I fixed my health. They told me I had cancer, but I found out it wasn't. But I lived for 3 months as if I had it. I found money to rescue the company, and something funny happened. It was a singularity. And I tweeted something, and a journalist in New York caught my tweet and invited me to do a pitch in the first event ever done inside the New York Stock Exchange. I said, yeah, you know what, I don't have time to come to New York to pitch to people, and eventually got money. Long story short, I went. I thought it was something new and interesting. Somebody, before going on stage, gave me a beer. I never drank before going on stage. So I accepted it. And because of all of that, my pitch was the best pitch out of the 100 company. And a guy in the first row stood up and yelled at me in front of 5,000 people, saying, you're not leaving from here until we talk and I invest in your company. That guy was Joe Pallotta, $9 billion fund and investor. Some Italian know it because he was the former owner of AS Roma soccer team. So he invested in my company. We saved the company, and eventually we got acquired a few years later. Well, lesson learned, you already read it a million times, but resilience is one of your biggest assets. Maybe it's an overrated word, but believe it is not. It's very, very current, and it happens every time you have a downturn and you need help. Why this light? Well, before we got acquired, actually one of the acquired, I cannot mention the name, but something happened. Meaning they invited us to finalize the acquisition. For a previous, they were in LA, I fly to LA. It was already, I had been there 20 times for the acquisition. And I was expecting to find on the table the agreement and a check with the number of the cash for the acquisition. And I sat down, I said, okay, I think things in order. And then I started to read more accurately the number on the check. I said, why the check shows only 1 million? They were discussing an amount that was more than 10 times bigger. And I started to read the agreement. I said, why this agreement is not referring to the company, it's referring to me? So long story short, this fund decided last minute to change the offer, and instead of buying the company, wanted to buy me, giving me $1 million as a hiring bonus. So I could have taken the check, put it in my bank account, no question asked, and I would have had to quit my company, my startup, my own company, and join their team to eventually rebuild the same technology inside their company. Seems a little bit unethical, right? So it was a very hard decision. Keep in mind that even my lawyer told me, Paolo, you legally can do it without legal consequences. I didn't feel I could. I would have destroyed my investors. I would have made them lose money. I would have escaped from the company that they supported for years. And I could have not slept at night for the rest of my life. So this was a very hard decision. That's why it's money versus your soul. And why this is important? Well, we always talk about network. I know this is maybe common practice, common standard, but your integrity, your reputation are one of your biggest assets in conjunction with your network. It's better to have a few thousand people on network and impeccable reputation instead of having 1 million followers, but your reputation is not as good or it's not good enough, not even to give an intro to someone else. I'm gonna pass some time. In 2015, I would say, in between projects. Actually, projects and company always overlap. Long story short, I meet someone in San Francisco, Italian. His name was Yuri. Was coming from Modena. We fell professionally in love. Need to make sure anybody in San Francisco to say you're in love can be with anyone. It's easier here. So we fell professionally in love. And long story short, we joined forces and we decided to build Evency. Long story short, Evency, we started from zero and we reached 200 million events aggregated and managed in our platform. What is Evency? Super short, for people that don't know us. We are the world's largest events discovery platform. It's similar to what you can do with Netflix the movies, with the difference that you search for events in your city. And we were aggregating all the sources and all the events in your city. So instead of opening Eventbrite, Facebook, and other apps, you could search in our engine. We reached 200 million events aggregated historically. At the peak, we reached 60 million active users, 10 million event organizers, and more than 50,000 paying customers. So, well, here there are a few stories. Number one, We were often in front of a lot of decisions. Something happened also with a very, very big company in Silicon Valley. It's one of the top 5 you can mention. I'm sure you have them up on your phone. They reached out to us and sued us, thinking that we were doing something wrong. So that slowed down our process. At the same time, 1 year later, when we recovered from that, we got so big, we started to have even close to more users than them into the event space. So they thought that we were stealing, and we were a threat. So when you're big, what do? You try to destroy your competitor. If you're really big, you can, unless you find a way to react. So we did react, and we lost 1 year of growth, but ended up we came out strong. Yes, so it was a piece of it. So long story short, we made mistakes, but speed again is one of the best assets you can have. That's why I'm asking to your questions. How long did it take to get there? How long you've done it, and keep in mind, done is better than perfect, meaning that here you can open a company in literally 5 minutes. Imagine how the remaining of the ecosystem can work and can react to that type of speed. At the end of, we all know what happened in 2020, we were going super fast. We were ready to do an IPO on our own. The IPO got cancelled because of COVID. We went to revenue zero overnight. There is a funny story that happened. The day COVID was announced in the United States, I woke up and we have a dashboard showing real-time revenue, and it was showing zero. So, I mean, zero is kind of extreme. So I called the CTO and say, hey, what's going on? I believe that my SQL database got disconnected. Oh, no, it's connected. We are revenue zero. So it was brutal. It took me 2 weeks to, I was in denial. I wasn't accepting that something called COVID destroyed our company. In the meantime, I started an executive MBA at MIT in person. I flew 50 times San Francisco to Boston over the weekend, so it was an extra variable of complexity to the whole equation. And everyone, including investors, told me, Paolo, you need to protect yourself and forget about the company, save your ass, sorry my French, and only think about, support your family, and that's it. I couldn't afford to escape and to quit and to leave everybody behind. So I did something crazy. I reached out to all my competitors. I literally called, emailed all the CEOs of all the events companies out there. First one, the CEO wasn't right. They know us well. They tried to acquire us twice. Reach out to the CEO of Ticketmaster, Live Nation, Viva Ticket, and name one. Everybody responded. Everybody was desperate, but everybody responded. And I told them, we are an IPO-ready company, audited, clean. Make an offer, we join it because we have no more options. Out of these 70 sponsors, we got 9 acquisition offers. Out of those 9, 6 were, I call it, COVID desperate offer, meaning acquire higher, meaning I acquire you for $1, and you and the team, we hire you, you become part of our team. And to be honest, part of these companies, I would have killed just to work with them. So it was a very hard decision. But again, your duty as founder is to protect the interest of your shareholder and stakeholder, and then you can offer your opinion if it's nice or not to be working for a company and have a different decision. So short answer, fast forward, out of these 6 companies we had to reject them. Out of the 3, we had 3 legitimate offers. We ended up, we did also a reverse due diligence on each one of them. I gonna skip the details, but it was crazy. Long story short, we ended up rejecting 2 offers, and it was very hard to convince the investor why I wanted to reject the offer. And part of the reasons were culture. Two of these companies had, based on my opinion, a very, very bad company culture. So if in the first meeting before you need to convince me to get acquired by you, I already don't like you, imagine what happens after the transaction. So here I'm gonna try to inject a few lessons learned. Number one, we have your network. Your network is one of your biggest assets. This goes together with the reputation. The two things need to go together. My trick is when I go to a conference or a meeting, always find a way to meet as many people as possible and get out with every possible person, business card, and contact information. Even if you cannot go deep, put your face in, name something, put a note, and leave, and move to the next one. Company culture is one of the biggest assets. This works two ways. In our case, worked that we decided not to be acquired by a company because we did not like the company culture. Reversely, we survived COVID also because of the company culture. We created a company culture in the last few years that was very strong, was very, I call it high quality and I call it Silicon Valley level. That helped us to retain the talent and acquire new talent. Well, I got out of my thinking comfort zone way too many times, so you should do it, all the time. So you're going to ask yourself, okay, how it ended? Well, it ended that we accepted one of these offers. We accepted to be acquired by events.com. Events.com is a California-based company. The headquarters is technically in San Diego. During COVID, we raised $80 million, summing up to the 100 million we raised before. By now, we merged companies almost 2 years ago. Amazing, and the number one reason I keep saying, the company has an amazing company culture, amazing people, amazing leadership. And now, a long story short, what is Events.com? Super brief. Well, we are an events platform. We are a one-stop shop events platform. We cover from events ticketing, events discovery, events programmatic marketing, event sponsorship, events insurance, and also we do everything at the point of sale and in the venue. Big news now. This is semi-confidential. I'm hoping this video is not on YouTube, but or not on YouTube soon. We are on the path of going public. So the company supposedly is going to be listed, I would say, within the next 2 quarters here in the States. So we are planning to go on NASDAQ. So that's why from COVID to IPO, actually it was our IPO as an NC, but I ended up going the IPO of the company we got acquired with. Always acquire different perspectives. I know it seems like a very, I would say, overrated sentence, but it really makes a difference. Even the way you look at opportunity, it helps to zoom out. That's the term that I like, and take a look at what you're doing from different perspectives. And very often you find there are more help and more support and more opportunities than what you think. I keep repeating this because I really believe in this. Never give up, for real. And that's my favorite ever. You have no excuse. We live in a world where, a person working in the field in Africa can have an Android phone for $30 that is connected to the internet and has access to the same exact content that you have access to from your $5,000 laptop in Silicon Valley or your computer and office in Italy. So we are competing now with the globe, not just with the people that are in first world countries. And what I keep saying, we, the people in this room for sure, we have all the resources to build our companies, build our project, not give up, seek for help, seek for investor, catch a plane, come here, talk to people. That's why you have no excuses to accomplish your biggest dream. Thank you.